Now that about 14 FIFA officials have been indicted for racketeering and bribery charges, there's more and more information coming out about how the World Cup was supposed to be held at Qatar or in Qatar. Now, it very well could still be held in Qatar in 2022, but you should understand that there are some serious ramifications to that. Now, what are those ramifications? The Washington Post did a really good compilation of all these different reports that talk about the human toll that Qatar has faced as a result of the World Cup being hosted there. Now, keep in mind that they have to build an infrastructure in order to host the event, right? And in order to do it, usually they rely on migrant workers. A lot of the working conditions for these workers are not safe, to say the least, and as a result, many people have died. Now, I'm going to read you some statistics, but it's important to keep in mind that not all of these migrant workers died as a result of what is being built for the World Cup, but a huge portion of them have died as a result of that. Now, a Guardian investigation last year revealed that Nepalese migrant workers were dying at a rate at 1 every 2 days. In sum, The Guardian put the total Qatar death toll of workers from Nepal, India, and Bangladesh at 964 in 2012 and 2013.
So what else are they working for, if you'll, other than for the World Cup?
Well, they could be working
to
on
build any
infrastructure,
other
any type of
things.
infrastructure.
Okay, all right.
Exactly. So I think construction is the biggest thing the migrant workers work on. So figures from the Indian embassy show, for instance, that 200 plus Indian workers died in Qatar in 2010 alone, but that was before the World Cup. So Qatar has had an issue when it comes to working conditions, but the World Cup kind of exacerbated that issue. It's kind of gotten worse as a result of that. So Christopher Ingram from the Washington Post compiled this really interesting graph kind of showing you the comparison between like Sochi, when the Olympics were held in 2014, London, the 2012 Olympics, and then Qatar, the migrant worker deaths since December of 2010.
I mean, it's not funny, but that's funny.
It's amazing. I mean, you see that stark contrast, and you can't help but wonder what the hell these FIFA officials were thinking. Well, we know what they were thinking. They were thinking about money and lining their own pockets with it, but the human toll is just unbelievable.
They didn't care. That's what they were thinking. They don't care. It's not like they want these people to die. But like, you could make an argument. It wouldn't be an outrageous story if you came on here and said, can you believe all these worker deaths in Sochi? Like, what were they thinking? What happened there in Sochi that caused these numbers? Then you
look at that. Like, it's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's amazing, and it shows you that obviously there was some corruption and wrongdoing.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, that's what happens when you have money and power. It's a recipe for this type of disaster here.
Yeah.
This story here in the Washington Post was it's a great first sentence. In the end, it only took a $150 million scandal to make Americans care about soccer. It's a great, it's a great line, because it certainly has piqued my interest, and the degree, the level of corruption at FIFA is really staggering. It's to be seen how this shakes out. FIFA has an election tomorrow, where they are scheduled right now to re-elect their leader for the last 4 terms, Sepp Blatter. It's staggering that he would not stand down, given the fact. I mean, imagine. I mean, it's not even like New Jersey and Chris Christie. It's like New Jersey and Chris Christie if you added 12 more of his top officials and campaign officials, and not just implicated in the scandal, arrested, indicted.
Yep.
For years. And yet he's still like, no, everything's fine.
Well, he's not going to stand down. He wants the money, and he's going to continue to get away with this.
Yeah.
So, but what's funny, what you said, what I kind of like piqued my interest, is that it took this scandal for us as Americans to sort of take interest. But what about the football fans or the soccer fans over there who are still not stepping up and speaking out, and who are still going to this game, who are still deciding that they're going to attend the World Cup Series, and who are not encouraging the officials, who are not encouraging the players to speak up and say, listen, we're not going to support this if you continue to do this.
Yeah, well, for them, it's more than just a game. It has to do with culture. It has to do with tradition. It's something that people are fanatics about. Yeah. And I can totally understand that. And I don't want to completely destroy the entire institution of football for people who enjoy it, but at the same time, I want to ensure that we do hold officials accountable when there is wrongdoing. And so, you know,
well, some of them are. The UEFA, the Europeans, that's 53 members, they have made it very clear that they will not stand for Blatter to be reelected, and they're talking about there could be a range of options from separating from FIFA completely, which and perhaps not participating in 2018. But it's a long that everything is so complicated because Vladimir Putin, who stands with Blatter, is out today saying that this is all a conspiracy. This is, of course, this is all a conspiracy to wrestle the 2018 Cup, the one before the Qatar Cup, to steal it away from Russia. So it's a complicated situation, but that said, the first step is to totally new management. But keep in mind, the scandal here is deep and pervasive. There will be people here who have been corrupt who will still
be in power.
Still be in power.
Right. Now, I do want to tell you what the future is likely to look like in Qatar when it comes to these migrant workers. Should the World Cup still be hosted there, and should Qatar decide to not reform the working conditions there? If current trends continue, the ITUC estimates that 4,000 workers will die in Qatar by the time the World Cup is actually held in 2022.
Jesus.
It's amazing.
What?
It's
like,
amazing.
and not in one accident. I mean, like, I don't, like, they're just falling off girders?
I know.
One
by one.
That's what. And by the way, I mean, not to extend this to a broader political point, but this is what happens when you don't have things like unions working for workers' rights, right? That's the reason why we have certain regulations in the United States to ensure that people are working in safe conditions. And right now, Qatar is grappling with all of this, and I suggest that they figure it out as soon as possible. Because if you're having these human rights abuses, I mean, how are you? By the way, I didn't know this. Qatar doesn't even really have a huge tradition of soccer.
No,
at all.
None.
Which surprised me. They just.
Why are they so gung ho about hosting the World Cup? Is
It's
it
a
because
huge amount of money and a huge
But they're so rich already.
Yeah, but it's
How
also
much money do you fucking want?
Exactly.
But you want the world to come to you. You know, it's a huge boon to tourism. It puts Qatar on a different kind of map. But the average temperatures during when the World Cup is played,
125.
125 degrees.
Amazing.
125 degrees.